This is the biggest drawback with trigger point therapy. Now, you've seen trigger point books, maybe done trigger point courses, and what are you always taught? You're taught sort of maybe certain muscular conditions like pain at the front of it, and you're given a list of muscles to treat, whether it's a pincer grip, whether it's pressing, and then you treat and hope that it goes. But massage therapists, that is not a treatment, is it? Because you can't just go for like 5 minutes and press here and press there. The muscles are now being all addressed. Your massage clients want a massage, don't they? You can't just do 5 minutes and go, all right, well, see you next week. No, because they will not come back. Even if you fix their pain, they're not coming back because they want a massage experience. And that's what I'm doing for you. In this course, I'm going to teach you how to give this absolutely beautiful massage, which will be incredibly effective as it is, and combined the trigger point therapy within that massage. So your client is getting this positive feedback, this beautiful deep tissue massage, as well as you focusing on the specific trigger points for their specific conditions, which I'm going to go through in this course. So now you can do trigger point therapy and it's a massage session at the same time, which is going to give you spectacular results. But there's more. What is my second problem with trigger point therapy? Now, the second biggest problem with trigger point therapy that I've found is it's too overwhelming. How can you remember all of these trigger points, their referral zones, the muscles, and they give you the whole body? All right, so that is what I'm doing. This is the first of a series of courses. This course I've focused on the most common things that you're going to see: neck pain, upper back pain, pain between the shoulders, shoulder pain, these sorts of things, cricks in the neck, these sorts of things. So you're going to be, you're not going to have to memorize all these things, because you know what happens? It's what happened to me. You just give it up. Now, you understand nearly 75%, studies have shown nearly 75% of muscular pain and joint pain have trigger points involved. They're almost always involved. So you want to be doing trigger point therapy. And so that's why I want to make this so that you can do it simply, easily, and not get overloaded, not get overwhelmed, and just go, because if you're like me, what happens, I forget it because it was too hard to remember all of these conditions, all of these trigger points, all of these muscles. So what we're going to do in this course is focus on the upper back and neck, the head and shoulders, and then we're going to build on that from after this course, okay? So then you consolidate what you learn in this, and then we add on. And I'm going to add on massage as well, same concept, so that you're going to have, by the end of this, you're going to have this amazing trigger point deep tissue massage sequence for the whole body. But so that's why we're just doing certain areas of the body, the most common that you'll see, and that way you can focus on these and not forget them and not have to try and memorize all of these things. Okay, so how do you get the best out of this course? Right, well, this depends on who you are and your circumstances. So first and foremost, if you're just doing this for yourself, you don't have any particular pains, but you're really interested in trigger points, then go from the start and just go in a chronological order. And I show you how to treat your own self, treat your own stiffness, maybe you've got pains, this sort of thing. Now, on that, if you do have specific pain, maybe you've got a shoulder pain, then go to that area where it says maybe front of the shoulder, side of the shoulder, stiff neck, whatever the pain is, see what muscles are involved, and then you go back to see how I self-treat those particular muscles that refer pain to those particular areas. Right, now, if you're a massage therapist, and let's say you don't have a really good understanding of trigger points, or maybe you do, then I urge you to do the self-treatments. You don't have to do them right away. Maybe you want to start learning the back massage sequence of the back and neck and head, and just start getting into that, straight away. By all means, you can do that, but don't forget yourself. You don't want to be the mechanic with the worst car, the gardener with the worst garden, or the massage therapist with the most stiffness and pain. Treat yourself. I urge you. We forget looking after ourselves, so you can go through that as well. It doesn't have to be right now, but it's good not only to treat yourself, but the other thing is, it's really important that you understand what it feels like. So when you're on that, when you're working one of these trapezius trigger points, you know what that feels like, because then when you treat the client, you'll have better sensitivity, you'll have better understanding of what it feels like. So when you get feedback from the muscles or from the person, you've got a much better understanding of it. All right, so they're the three ways that you can start on this course. Now, in your resources, you can download, I've got an ebook for you, I've got all this great stuff for you, so you can use resources that you can then check on the trigger points. You've got charts, now, as I've said to you before, I'm going to teach you a complete back, neck, shoulder, head and face massage, which will feel fantastic. I've got the sequence in there for you. I've got all of the conditions regarding the head, the neck, the shoulders, the upper back, and the muscles that are affected. Everything is there for you, so make sure you download those. I've also got them separately in each lecture in case you didn't do them. Oh, now by the way, some people, I don't know why this happens, but some people go, I don't see anything in the resources, and they happen to be using the Udemy app. So what they've had to do, and again, I don't know why, is go to udemy.com, the website, and then they see the resources and can download them. I don't know why, but if that's your problem, then just go to the udemy.com website instead. But it only happens to a very tiny amount of people, and it might even be fixed because I haven't heard of it for a long time. Okay, so there you go. Have a look at all your resources. You can download them in PDF form, and you got them. Okay, so what are trigger points? So what I'm going to do is give you a very quick basic understanding of it, and then as we go through the course, you don't want to bog you down with too much information now, just the most important things. Right, so, okay, so a trigger point is a very painful spot in a tight band of muscle in your muscle, okay? So, like a lot of times people will say, oh yeah, so you got to think of a point, it's 2 mils to 10 mils, size of a lentil, size of this. I don't want you to focus on trying to find like a knot as such, all right? Because unless your palpation skills are really good, all you need to do is find a really sensitive spot in a tight band of muscle, all right? So the trigger point will be in a little spasmy muscle in what would other be just normal muscle tissue. So like, for example, if you were to go and across your forearm muscles here, you'll feel them running down like this. And if you search around, you may find a tight band of muscle, okay? And then go along through that tight band and you'll find, and you keep pressing, you'll find a really sensitive spot. Now, that could be the trigger point. Now, trigger points are both that they are active or they are inactive, and they call that latent. Okay, what does that mean? So trigger points have a specific referral pattern. Now, they could refer pain, tingling, numbness. They can cause all sorts of motor disturbances like dizziness, like tinnitus, ringing in the ears, and they refer pain. And we know where the trigger points generally are, and they have a specific referral pattern. Now, nearly 90% of the time, that referral pattern is away from the body. So if the trigger point's here, it will be away, like what we call distal. So away from the central area, okay? And then the vast majority of the others are just localized pain. So if the trigger point's here, it's localized. Otherwise, say if there's a trigger point, like for example, there's a trigger point that can cause tennis elbow pain back in the triceps here, okay? So it's further away from the center of the body. So just remember that as well. So active, refer pain. Latent, do not refer pain, but they can become active, okay? And then start giving you problems. Latent and active can both give you stiffness. Now, don't worry, I don't want to bog you down on this, but just for the moment, just think, okay, so you need to be looking for a tight, spasmy muscle, like up in here, and then go along that to try and find a really sensitive spot. And if it's active, you press down on it, it can refer, like for example, this one, temporal headaches, these sorts of things. So your headache is coming from this, okay? So look for the tight bands of muscle and the most sensitive part within that muscle. And I'm going to help you as we go along. And I'm going to give you the referral patterns so you know that as well. So there are active and latent trigger points, okay? Active refer pain, latent don't, but they can become active. And what we're looking for are tight bands of muscle, not so much a trigger point, so just an area where it's really sensitive within that tight spasmy muscle. Now, so just remember this, these are just so if you've got all your muscle fibers going like this, it's not like the whole thing is in spasm. It's just one little tiny spasmy muscle within the normal muscle. So, but the problem is that's going to cause things like stiffness, decreased range of motion, pain, as I say, and other neurological like tingling, numbness, burning, all sorts of things can happen, okay? So this is just a very brief understanding for you. So, and the things that cause trigger points can be lots of different things, but most commonly falls, accidents, sprains, strains, excessive use of your muscles can cause that as well, but also sustained posture, slouching can then cause these contracted muscles to get trigger points, both in the shortened ones and the overly long ones. So, but we'll go through that as you go. So I don't want you to have to start thinking, memorizing all of these things, and that's the way I've put this course together. So just all you need to remember for the moment is we're going to start looking for, and I'm going to show you where to find them, because these trigger points are in certain areas, and so I'm going to do that, and then you just go for the most sensitive part of that spasmy muscle. So you find it really easy once you know how. Okay, so let me show you something. So let's just imagine, because this is why stretching will not help alone. Okay, now what happens is, okay, so you know you've got a shortened spasm muscle. Within that shortened spasm muscle, let's say your hamstrings, for instance, so all the rest of the hamstrings, normal length. But within that is one little ropey band with a trigger point in there, and it may or may not be reproducing pain. So, for example, your vastus medialis here, okay? There's a trigger point in here that can refer pain, anterior knee pain, okay? So you can massage the kneecap to the cows come home, and you know, people will get MRIs and that's nothing wrong, maybe even get surgery, but it always coming from a trigger point in a tight band of muscle, which when you pressure, which I'm on right now, you go, whoa, okay? But so remember, active trigger points are in tight bands of muscle, so are latent ones. The latent ones, or inactive, can still produce reduced range of motion and stiffness, but they don't produce the pain. And anytime they can become active through, like I said, a fall, accidents, psychological problems, stress, excessive exercise, etc., okay? So let's just go back to the athlete. So because this, you can increase, now I want you to start thinking about any pains or symptoms you have, temporal headaches, think of that pain in the back of here, start thinking this, that stiff neck, that just won't loosen up. These are all trigger points potentially, okay? So let me show you why stretching is not a good idea by itself. So think of this as a normal, healthy, nice, springy, nice muscle here. So nice and, so stretching, no problem at all. But now what we get is, and this is why stretching alone won't help. Now, when you've got trigger points in muscles and spasmy muscles, they're working hard the whole time, okay? Because they're contracting the whole time. So what that does is decreases a person's performance. So decreased range of motion, decreased power in the gym, not being able to run as fast, and increases their rate of injury. Why? Because you've got a tight, shortened, spasmy muscle within your hamstrings, for example. So now look, okay, so now we've got a trigger point. So just imagine this. So now when I'm trying to stretch, well, this doesn't stretch, does it? This part here is that tight, spasmy muscle, which makes it very, very, it could be get an injury very easily, okay? So that's why if you just try to stretch without addressing the trigger points, which is what we're gonna do, so you're just trying to stretch your neck, for example. Well, that trigger point there is holding on, it's contracted, okay? That's why we have to address that, and then, and only then, once we've deactivated the trigger point, can we then stretch it to lengthen it out, because then all of the muscle fibers are at the same length. That spasmy muscle there, we've deactivated so it can let go. All right, we're about to get started on the most common trigger point that's going to make your neck feel fantastic. It's the most common trigger point on the body that affects people. But before we do that, I want you to see if you've got something that's going to help you, because when we start working further back between the shoulder blades, you can't get to them so easily. So this is where your little friend, a tennis ball, it could be a racket ball, it could be one of those Kong toys if you've got a dog, anything like that. And what we're going to do is you can put them, like so if I were to work on the muscles between my shoulder blades, you go and stand up against a wall, put this back there, lean against the wall, so that's pushing, as you can imagine, my back's pushing against that, and that will work the trigger points absolutely beautifully, okay? Now, by the way, little trick, you can put this in a stocking or a sock, and that way when you put it down your back, you know, if you're dropping it and running around all over the floor to pick it up, well, that will save you, because you hold onto the sock and let that drop by. Right, I used to give this exercise to my clients, virtually every single client, for home to use this between treatments. So if you're a massage therapist, as we go through this first part of the course, not only are you treating yourself, but think about your clients, because they're going to get better much more quickly between your massage treatments, okay, by giving them home exercises using a tennis ball, okay? Now, another thing, you might have one of these dusty in the back cupboard that you forgot about, or maybe you don't have one, or maybe you use it all the time, I don't know. But anyway, this is from Amazon, it's like 20 bucks. You don't have to have one of these, but they are really good. They do virtually the same job, but so you can see here, if I just show you, so you're just going to pull down on it, very simple. So, and that can work. But these really are fantastic as well, because then you don't have to get up and go against the wall. All right. So again, you don't have to do this. You don't have to buy one of these to do the course. But using a ball, using something like that is going to save your thumb. So that's going to be great because your thumbs can get tired after a while. All right. Let's get you feeling better.